up, Founds Fox? What's up, Matt B? Yo, Mama, good to see all of you. Let's jump right into your questions, and I'm gonna do my best to add as much value possible. So let's get right into it. Nobody has questions yet, so I'm gonna go just look at look at some of the comments on my YouTube page. And somebody asked me, do you get all the benefits right away with oxiracetam, or does it build in your body? With oxiracetam, what makes that a little bit unique to the rest of the racetams is you do actually feel it. You get a good sense of alertness, awareness. It's really good specifically for drive, for ambition, for getting to work, for good energy levels as well. I've noticed with oxiracetam, though, it's really important to cycle it. So something which works well for me with oxiracetam is 4 to 6 weeks on, 1 week off, and then I would repeat like that. It's not like paracetam. Paracetam does take a bit of time to see all the benefits with thinking, creativity, improving your memory and such. That was the first racetam that I used, paracetam. So if you are new to the racetams, the way that I think is the best approach to take is to use paracetam first. See how you tolerate it. Give it a couple of weeks. Be sure to watch all the videos related to paracetam, and you'll notice it, especially when you use it with choline. I like alpha GPC, and then the benefits will come. And then if you need something more so for enhancing verbal fluency, you may want to try using aniracetam after you use paracetam. And then if you need something for energy, for drive, that's where oxiracetam can be really good. Where are you getting the racetams from? Yeah, this is a really common question. People are not able to find the racetams. I'm going through the same challenge as you are. I think it's just a matter of time until ND has it back in stock. So don't worry about it. And you're really not missing out because ND still has Noopept. Noopept allows you to see a lot of the same benefits from paracetam and some of the racetams. So I've been using Noopept, and I wanted to show you all something because a lot of you asked me, Michael, how do you... Oh, sorry, I'm not using that little click thingy. There you go. This is the question I'm responding to. Thanks, Ali, for getting this up and going. Many people ask me how I use nootropics or how basically I prepare them for the week, and this is how I do it. Pretty simple. Like this is, for example, morning. I got one Ziploc bag. This covers my whole week in the sense of in the morning, I just grab one of the bags, right? Pretty simple. There are my nootropics. You can see like the Noopept is there. I got my Tribulus. I got N-acetyl L-Tyrosine. I got L-Tyrosine. What else do I think I have? Alcar and my thyroid medication. And just, yeah, keep it simple. And then as far as just around dinner time, I still use, one of those old-fashioned things like that. And these are more so just, normal supplements for health. Something you would give your parents. Vitamin D, I got fish oil. I have a good multivitamin. I have glucosamine, which is really good for joint health, especially if you lift weights. And what is up, everyone? It's nice to see all of you, and we'll be doing this more often for sure. Any snacks for someone with a hangover that wants to be sharp? I really like that question. The few things which work best for me are Rhodiola rosea. I actually do like taking Bacopa around stress, around being sleep deprived, maybe a slight hangover. Caffeine, I would be very careful with. I think that's the one scenario that's one of the scenarios where I would use caffeine along with L-theanine. What's so is with caffeine, especially when you're hungover or you're short on sleep, you'll likely notice that the crash you experience is far worse than typical. Caffeine crash, meaning, if you ingest caffeine, for example, usually about 3 to 4 hours later, you feel very sluggish. You experience that brain fog. And it's like, it really does amplify it when you're sleep deprived or when you're experience a hangover. So use strategic naps. You may want to meditate, be very mindful of your state. The way you want to start off with Rhodiola rosea is take 300 to 500 milligrams, and you can do that up to 2 times a day. I wouldn't take it 3 times a day. Can I stack L-phenylalanine with NAC? Yes, I don't think you would notice too much really from those. Like phenylalanine, for instance, you may notice a bit if you take it with caffeine. There's some people who say when they use them together, they feel like a bit of a euphoria, and it's hard to find that feeling with nootropics, which I can see. But alpha-phenylalanine, I think it's like a worse form of L-tyrosine. You'll likely notice that more. I'm not sure what you're using those nootropics for, but I think overall they're not that strong. They're fairly, you could say, free of side effects. Mike, what are you going to do without the racetam? So I'll use Noopep for now, see how that goes. I'm not too concerned for me specifically. Like, I have so much paracetam. I have the only one I'm really missing is pramiracetam. But I've got tons of paracetam. I'm using Noopep and I feel good. Yeah, we're gonna skip that one. Guys, could we keep our questions kind of YouTube friendly? Where is Owen Wu? Who knows? And has anyone seen Owen Wu? Owen Wu was he used to show up on every single live stream and kind of ask the same questions. So we had a good joke with him. He was asking about Bacopa for like 4 months straight. Owen, move on. Well, we miss you, Owen. Do you build a tolerance to Tribulus and Tongkat alley? See, that's a great question because I actually don't. And because of that, the problem is I've been continually using them, maybe using them too much, maybe using it more often than I should be. With Tribulus, I've been using Tribulus on and off since 2013, and I've not built any sort of tolerance to it myself. I do notice once I use it, once I put it back into my stack, I feel more aggressive. I feel, just a little bit more alert throughout the course of the day, kind of how you would feel, more manly. This is Sparta. And with Tongkat Ali, no, I've not noticed any sort of buildup of a tolerance. Yeah, this question is going to keep on coming up. How many times a week should I use Modafinil? You shouldn't. If you're going to use it, be very strategic. It's not something that is the most healthiest substance. It's never good taking something and like in your heart of hearts thinking, okay, this is not good for me long term. So the way that if you are going to use it around productivity, what I would recommend you do is the day before, really plan out your day, because with Modafinil, you'll find yourself a little bit distractible. Sometimes your judgment is a bit impaired and you're doing those low dollar per hour kind of work. For me, for instance, like I sell homes. I know the activities which are going to really make me the most money are like making my follow-up calls, making fresh calls, going on appointments, doing offers. That's it. But when I'm using Modafinil, for instance, I will start doing admin work that I do not need to be doing, that my assistant can be doing. And so Modafinil will seem to offset your judgment. Noopep gives me insomnia even when I take it in the morning. See, we all react to racetams and Noopep very differently. I think that's something which makes racetams a bit unique in that sense. Racetams versus some of the, you could say like naturally occurring nootropics, some of the popular ones being like Ashwagandha, Bacopa, Rhodiola, rosea, Go-To cola, Tyrosine. These are fairly consistent with people, whereas the racetams completely different. It's so specific to each individual. With for instance, I really noticed paracetam working after a few weeks, and a lot of people don't notice it working at all. Why does Modafinil make me sleepy? There's something to be said about people with like very strong, or not strong, but people that may be actually diagnosed with ADHD, that they use stimulants and it actually makes them tired. Although this is only just based on reading a lot of people's experiences. I'm not really too sure. How long until Noopep gives me effects? It has only been gave me a bad headache. See, with Noopep, you may not notice it actually working. That's one reason. That's something which is often misunderstood about Noopep. See, very often we take nootropics, we expect to feel something immediately, see like either a mood improvement, see like a really good boost to performance. Noopep is something which it's good to take, I would say, if you can be really like mindful of your measures of, or maybe you have a goal. You have some sort of objective way of measuring whether or not things are working. Like I'm in a 100% commission-based job, and I noticed when I started taking Noopep, 2 months later, my income was up, and that was enough for me to say I'm gonna keep it in my nootropic stack. If it's giving you a bad headache, it could be because you're not ingesting enough choline. Noopep, similar to the racetams, they should be consumed with a choline source. Take a look at alpha GPC. That's my favorite. CDP choline or choline bitartrate. And in those orders I'm in that order from best to worst. I've made videos on all of them. I like alpha GPC, but some people experience the headaches with them. So CDP choline, also known as citicoline, is a good alternative. Yohimbine and L-Tyrosine first thing in the morning, is that a good idea? I would presume you're using those two for losing fat. Yohimbine is a really popular fat loss supplement, specifically around targeting stubborn areas of your body fat. So people use Yohimbine in order to increase blood flow to those stubborn areas and help them to lose weight. So that's the good thing about Yohimbine first thing in the morning, or taking it fasted, because you need to be taking it fasted, as if you have any, if you have like a rise in your insulin due to ingesting food, that will actually prevent Yohimbine from doing anything in your body. So you want to use it fasted, and then do your cardio about 30 to 45 minutes there afterwards. And the way in which Yohimbine the effects can really be enhanced, if you're using it for fat loss, would be using it with L-Tyrosine and caffeine. So something like Yohimbine, 500 to 1,000 milligrams of L-Tyrosine and 200 milligrams of caffeine. Do your cardio 30 minutes afterwards, and you are good to go. You'll surely lose a lot of fat. But with that comes the side effects. Really bad anxiety when you use Yohimbine, and your heart rate will just elevate so uncomfortably that people don't realize with Yohimbine. You shouldn't be doing high intensity interval trainings, like under no circumstance. I also cannot lift weights when I use Yohimbine. It's so uncomfortable. So is it a good idea? Depends on what you're using it for. I think if you're higher than 15% body fat, assuming you're a male, there's no point of using it. But if you're 15% and under, and you're willing to do some low intensity steady state cardio, then it could be a good idea. But as far as using it for as a nootropic, I don't think so. It can really boost your mood, but you're too anxious, and not good that way. Do you notice a tolerance on L-theanine, and how many days do you like to take tolerance breaks? I personally don't. Through speaking to many of you and reading the comments, I would guess that people have a buildup with like a tolerance buildup with L-theanine. I'd say maybe 30 to 40% of people, and then they take time off. So if that is the case, then something like 3 weeks on, 1 week off could be good. And I wouldn't be taking more than like 400 milligrams of L-theanine a day. I think even that's on the higher side, because when you use too much L-theanine, you will feel demotivated. I stopped using L-theanine. I talked about it in one of my more recent videos on nootropics that I'm going to stop taking. So since I stopped using L-theanine probably 3 months ago, and my productivity has really gone up. Now I just use it with caffeine, but that is because I'm using Ashwagandha 2 times a day. I'm also taking Bacopa. Those are really good nootropics to help me with stress management, and I'm able to get away without using the L-theanine. What is the nootropic with the most effective cognitive effect? The most effective, I think when it comes to something you will actually notice, I still am really impressed with phenylpiracetam. I just don't like that with phenylpiracetam you can't use it every day, or you shouldn't be using it every day, because you'll feel some sort of withdrawal there afterwards. And phenylpiracetam is not like the other racetams. It falls more so in that category of Modafinil, maybe caffeine and L-theanine. You ingest it once sometime in the early portion of the day, you will feel the effects and you'll feel the effects for a good 10 hours. It causes me to have worse insomnia than Modafinil does by just taking 100 milligrams under the tongue. So you feel alert, your memory feels good, you feel very creative. I find that when I'm talking to people and I've used phenylpiracetam, I'm easily able to come up with like stories to tell, use metaphors, use analogies, and makes conversations move along. And at the same time, you'll find when you're doing work, let's say work like independent work behind the computer, with phenylpiracetam, you don't need breaks. Just stay focused. You can be a bit distractible, similar to similar to with Modafinil, though I really like it. Oh man, this is a good question, but he used the F word, so I cannot answer it. You shouldn't have done that. Mickey, if you want to clean up your question related to Ritalin, I will answer it. Generally, I think if people respond poorly to Noopep/Rastams, they should focus more on dopaminergic nootropics. That is a fair point. All right, cool. Loaded question here from Justin. Thanks, Justin. What's the best nootropic to stimulate your reward factor? I use Subroxy, Alpha, Lion's Mane, Noopep, 5-HTP, Tongkat, and Ashwagandha. I find I can focus a bit, but still lack motivation to grind. The 2 ones here, which, I mean, of these nootropics, these are all great. The 2 which I believe are missing specifically to stimulate that reward factor will be L-Tyrosine and would be Mucuna pruriens. Look into those 2. They're known to pretty much really increase your dopamine levels, but that's not always what you're looking for. You want to have a good balance between improving your dopamine levels and improving your serotonin levels. There's something to be said about them two needing to be a little bit balanced. And if you have too much dopamine, you may find yourself a bit aggressive. You can have like addictive behavior to some extent. Be careful with that. It's not always more stimulating your reward factor, which matters. Best nootropics for Yo Mama. Thanks for all the questions. You're doing great. Best nootropics for brain fog that can help with social anxiety as well. Choline sources maybe. See that's kind of two questions. We're looking at brain fog and we're looking at social anxiety. If it's both, lion's mane may help. In the sense with lion's mane, with lion's mane, how it may help you in terms of just being social, being interactive with people is you'll find like you're in your head a little bit less, so you don't experience that brain fog. You're willing to get in. You're willing to put yourself in different situations that you're not accustomed to. You're willing to get out of your comfort zone. You're willing to go meet people, talk to people, and it's because you generally just are more curious about people. You want to learn, and lion's mane is probably the only nootropic I can think of which kind of can yield those benefits. Okay, so does the feeling good of L-Tyrosine wear off after a period of time? Yes, about 75 minutes for me. Some people maybe a little bit longer. The video that I have coming up this week is actually talking about the L-Tyrosine side effects, and one of them that I've really noticed is the anxiety. I've stopped using L-Tyrosine in the later portion of the day. Right now, I only take it in the morning prior to my workout because L-Tyrosine, it really does help with energy levels. It helps with physical energy. It helps with mental energy. It helps with brain fog. So I like how it makes me feel for my workouts, but that's for my workouts only. The rest of the time, I'm getting a little bit anxious when I use it. I'm not as creative. I'm a little bit more energized, but I don't want to be having energy to go talk to people and then I'm feeling anxious when I'm in conversation. So I've stopped using L-Tyrosine in the later portion of the day. I pretty much only use it prior to working out because I don't mind if I'm a little bit anxious during my workouts. The goal is to have a good workout, and L-Tyrosine has been known to really fight off stress, physical stress, and also help with fat loss. Let me know how the rest of you feel about that. If L-Tyrosine is still as good as we think it is. Do I have an updated stack with Armodafinil? Henry, no. I would watch the video that I made on the NZT48 godlike stack. I made that video a couple months ago, and it sort of detailed what the best stack is if you're going to be using modafinil. I mentioned the important things around just staying hydrated throughout the day, how the strategic use of choline, the strategic use of adaptogens later on in the evening as well, just to help you calm down a little bit. Alpha Brain, should I try it? There's a big difference between the newer one, the Alpha Brain, I think black version, and the older one. So the newer one does have a little bit of caffeine. It also does have a lion's mane. The first one with the Alpha Brain, I don't necessarily think it was a bad product, though some people may say it's overpriced. It was decent. It's a nice product to try if you're new to nootropics and you want to see if they work. Most people noticed with Alpha Brain, because they say to take Alpha Brain 30 days straight. And there was some pretty good feedback in the sense people said after a month of use that towards the end of the month that their focus was better and their memory was a little bit better. So you can decide if you want to try it or you want to just watch some of the videos on my channel. I've made a playlist on nootropics for beginners and you can take that journey. If you have more time, then I would say watch my videos and you can hand select a few nootropics that can do the work, because Alpha Brain, I believe it's tyrosine, Bacopa, and maybe choline, which were the best ingredients in there, and the other ones weren't super effective. What do you do to make capsules quickly? I used to use the capsule machine. If you look it up, it should be there on Amazon, the capsule machine. I may even have a video on how to encapsulate stuff, but I've stopped doing that. Just that it was too much work, and I think it's only a good use of time if you have a huge capsule machine. And the capsule machine I was using was maybe only perhaps 30 capsules. So there's products out there, though the problem is you can't really mix the powders. I used to think, okay, I can mix some powders together and make blends and put them into capsules, but you can't do that because you can't really evenly distribute the powder in all the capsules, if you know what I mean. What's the best natural supplements for alertness and verbal fluency? Probably caffeine. Yeah, don't sleep on caffeine. If you don't like caffeine, it's just because maybe you're not using it right. You want to try a lower dose. Lower dose caffeine spread out through the day works better for me for cognition specifically. And around verbal fluency, then look at taking Aniracetam. Though you mentioned natural supplement, I wouldn't say it's necessarily natural, but that's one which is really effective with me. Aniracetam and Paracetam, because that's all I do. Like during the day, I'm pretty much just talking. Being an agent, selling homes, it's blah, 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 blah. Making presentations, having effective conversations, asking the right questions. And I've really found Paracetam and Aniracetam and even Noopep, they've like skyrocketed my income, no questions. What's the best nootropic to lose weight? Decrease ghrelin or increase leptin? Well, decrease ghrelin or increase leptin is very different than a nootropic to lose weight. What these two, firstly, ghrelin, that's like the kind of like the hunger hormone. When you don't sleep, what happens is your ghrelin really goes up and you become hungry for the wrong kinds of foods, meaning fatty foods, oily foods, sugary foods. So you do want to decrease your ghrelin, though there's not a nootropic or there's not a supplement, I believe, that can actually decrease ghrelin. That would be amazing. The best solution to that really is managing your stress levels, keep your cortisol levels somewhat low, and get a good night of sleep. As far as increase in leptin is concerned, same thing. I don't believe there's a nootropic that can increase leptin. They found that you can inject leptin, but what's good about leptin is that leptin is kind of responsible for losing fat and helping to regulate your appetite. So one of the reasons why people do diet breaks or they have like a carbohydrate refeed day is because it increases leptin. What happens is as you diet, so let's say you diet, you're trying to lose weight for 2 weeks, you're in a calorie deficit, you're losing weight, but one of the reasons why we plateau is because our leptin also decreases, meaning it becomes harder to lose body fat. So then we have one day where we do a refeed, which is very high on carbohydrates, and then our leptin really goes up. Just kind of shedding some light on these two hormones and the role they play when it comes to lose weight. As far as nootropics to lose weight, there's not much out there except for nootropics that can help to boost your focus for your workouts. Some really popular supplements for losing weight, though, which have maybe worked for me. Caffeine's great. Green tea extracts, really great. And even that, though, hardly works. Yohimbine works if you use it prior to cardio. And manage your stress, of course. But the majority of the supplements out there aim towards fat loss. They're not that effective. Things like cayenne pepper. What else is there? 5-HTP. That's just good for blunting your appetite. Sorry if this was asked already. Was Rhodiola rosea good for working out? I'm not a believer in that. Some people say that it works well prior to it works well when they use Rhodiola rosea prior to working out, similar to Ashwagandha. Perhaps if you work out in the later portion of the day, then Rhodiola rosea may help to fight off some stress, may help to clear your mind and help you be more focused for your workouts. But otherwise, I don't think it's the greatest tool. Maybe if you have long workouts, like hour and a half, maybe 2-hour workouts, then you can consider taking some Rhodiola rosea intra workout to help you get that energy boost. Have you ever considered using anabolics as a nootropic? See, I actually have. I was on TRT, and it was incredible how I felt afterwards. Like after one injection, you feel very stimulated, you feel energized, you don't need as much sleep. There's no question it can help around productivity, but having testosterone levels super high it's not always the greatest for like productivity. Like you're distractible. I mean, you're just think about when you're like libido is so high, you want to party, you want to go meet with your friends. It's hard to stay focused on work and generally on productivity. Any supplement to make food taste more flavorful? Not sure I understand the question. You can add like basil, you can add herbs, cayenne pepper, cinnamon, or nootropics, depending on the way you look at them. What are the top working memory nootropics, either racetams or natural nootropics? Bacopa and paracetam, those are probably my favorite ones. Bacopa, tried, tested, and true. There's studies showing that Bacopa not only works with people with dementia or with bad memories, but also with individuals that already have good memories. There was a study done with Bacopa and I think it was med students, and they actually saw after 12 weeks a considerable benefit with their memories. So the way that I'm using Bacopa right now is I'm taking 300 to 500 milligrams twice a day, once in the afternoon, sometime around 2 o'clock, and once around 6 o'clock, along with my ashwagandha. And I'm noticing not only does it help with memory, I mostly use it for mood and to fight off stress. The memory benefits kind of like icing on the cake. Any nootropics you take together specifically? Bernardo, that's a great question. On my Patreon, as well as a free YouTube video that I have, is on 10 different nootropic stacks. That's a great video. I would recommend you watch that. Some of the ones that come to mind, Bacopa and Ashwagandha, using those two for mood and for stress, they really work well. Rhodiola, rosea, and Bacopa, those are good in the middle of the day around fighting stress, helping to get you another 2 to 3 hours of work done. L-tyrosine and caffeine, those are really good for energy, for focus, for productivity. Have you tried yerba mate tea, and are you familiar with its benefits? My understanding with yerba mate, it's kind of like a smoother, extended release caffeine kind of thing, better for productivity versus caffeine. You don't get the anxiety. I've not used it enough to say how good it is, but I hear good things about it. Not from everyone though, from some people. Best nootropic for depression, anxiety, and what nootropics to avoid if you have them. So what nootropics to avoid if you have depression and anxiety, and what are the best nootropics for depression and anxiety? Interesting. That's a great question. So the ones which come to mind are ashwagandha. The specific form of ashwagandha you may want to look into is the form called Shoden, Shoden. I've made a video that actually does talk about the 3 different types of ashwagandha, which are most popular, being the KSM66, the sensorial form, and the Shoden form. And the Shoden, you can look at it like the worst for productivity, but the best one when it comes to anxiety, sleep, mood. Really is helpful. There's a study actually done showing it can really help with sleep quality, helping you stay asleep, helping you get deep sleep. I've been using Shoden prior to going to sleep for the past year, and I really like it. So I would say that one's great, the Shoden form of ashwagandha. The other ones which come to mind are Bacopa Maneri, and then some people really like taking L-tyrosine for depression and anxiety. I'm somebody that finds when I use L-tyrosine, it makes me a bit more anxious, so it's not my favorite. And with nootropics to avoid if you have them, I mean, if you have anxiety, if you have depression, I would recommend you just be mindful of your racetam intake, because with racetams, they can make you more focused, they can make you more productive, and they can at the same time make you a little bit anxious. It really depends with those. I found that when I was at a low period, where I was a little bit anxious, maybe I wasn't in the best mood, racetams helped me because they made me work. And when I was working and I had something to do and I was focused all the time, then I was just naturally in a better mood. How did I leave out L-tyrosine is the most important one? This is a follow-up to Justin's questions. Justin's question about nootropics that would help to have him like a reward response. Is Mercuripurians enough, or should I look into other serotonin supplements? Mercuripurians is not for serotonin. The other serotonin supplements you may want to look into, where pretty much the only one would be 5-HTP. That one is, you ingest 5-HTP, it pretty much is boosting your serotonin levels, as simple as that. Any nootropics you take? Man, this is hard. I have to like rush through every question. Sorry if I'm talking super fast or not clear with my words. My goal is to get every question here answered. Any nootropics you take at a particular time other than sleep nudes? The ones I take in the morning. Not sure, Bernardo, if I understand the question. For me, what it typically looks like is I have my morning nootropics. I have a stack I take at 2 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and then a little stack before I go to sleep. Just a few things, being Tribulus, sometimes ZMA. I take my Shoden, and that's it. Armodafinil, alpha GPC, and what else? Jonathan, you got to look at that video, man. I can't give you the whole video over here. The video is on, I think it's titled NZT48 Godlike Stack. If you just go on my channel, you look at videos, they're in category from, or they're categorized like newest to oldest. You'll see it there. It's like a yellow background. Alpha Brain used to hurt my stomach. You're not the only one who's told me that. You feel like a little bit odd, though. That's not only Alpha Brain which does that. Similar with Quality of Mind, I kind of feel that. You had a video on Yohimbine HCl. Have you tried Yohimbine bark? What's the difference between the two? Really, the difference is just the dosage. You need to look at the Yohimbine bark, and you need to look at in your supplement facts. It will actually say, in most cases, Yohimbine bark, and then in brackets how much that dose is in Yohimbine HCl. Can you use modafinil every day? I've not personally tried it. I think Dave Asprey, our friend who does the bulletproof coffee thing, he's the one who said he used it every day and didn't notice any bad side effects. Would not recommend it though. I need to study after 8 hours of work, but I'm exhausted. Any recommendations? Probably not nootropics. I think you're better off taking a nap. Or but along with taking your nap, some of the ones which I would think would really work well for you would be Rhodiola rosea. That's really good for fighting fatigue. Probably the best nootropic for fighting fatigue. L-Tyrosine, that would really help your energy levels. Noopep would help you focus. Maybe a little bit of caffeine just to get you in the state to want to study in the first place. The hardest part is pretty much just getting started very often. And pick up some books around productivity. Maybe you're lacking drive. Stay hydrated, get into workout, anything you can do to really boost your alertness and eliminate your social life entirely, because it's a waste of time. Having a social life is a waste of time. I'm just joking. Thoughts on Quality of Mind? I still think it's the best nootropic blend out there. Mind Lab Pro, probably like second place. Quality of Mind, it has everything, almost every nootropic you can think of. And what I like about Quality of Mind is they're very transparent about it's used for productivity. That's what it's used for. That's the reason why there's no ashwagandha, and that's the same reason why there's no lion's mane there, because lion's mane, some people take lion's mane, they feel a bit demotivated, and similarly with ashwagandha. When it comes to Quality of Mind, it's around alertness, it's around focus, it's around memory, and really being in peak performance state. So I'll use Quality of Mind here and there. I have they were really kind to me. They sent me a bunch of sample packs. So if it's a day when I'm feeling a little bit off, that's a day when I'll use my Quality of Mind, because it's only about 90 milligrams of caffeine. So I'll use it once in the late afternoon. And yeah, I really do sincerely get like a good 2 to 3 hours of work done. I've heard that lion's mane supposedly had some anti-androgenic effects. What are your thoughts on that? People say all kinds of things about lion's mane. Maybe 20% of people notice some of the bad side effects with hair loss, with having a worse mood, with fighting, with actually preventing muscle hypertrophy. I don't believe it. Damn, why am I getting ignored? You're probably cursing in your question. So if you stop cursing, then I will answer you. If you're not, then I apologize. Be sure to ask your question again. Oh, yeah. No, I'm seeing your question. It's a stupid question, man. Is Tongkat Ali overrated or overrated? Tongkat Ali is overrated when it comes to it being a nootropic, I'd say. If your goal is productivity, if your goal is fighting stress, being focused, thinking clearly, boosting your memory, Tongkat Ali is not the best nootropic. Really, it's around libido and it's around building strength. I feel mentally better when I take Tribulus, but when it comes to the gym, building muscle, Tongkat Ali by far is better. What would you recommend to cycle ashwagandha with? To cycle ashwagandha, I think you mean stack ashwagandha with. That would tell me a little bit more about what you're trying to use ashwagandha for, then I can give you some clarity. Mike, you believe that Bacopa can help with both clarity and verbal fluency? I do. I respond really well to Bacopa. If anything, it can make me a little bit demotivated. That's the only drawback with it. But mental clarity, verbal fluency. Hey, when you're like stress management, your stress management game is really good. You're going to be performing better, like regardless. So that's something which I love about Bacopa. I use Bacopa probably like 2 hours before this live stream, and just clear-headed, willing to take on new tasks, willing to get out of my comfort zone a little bit, and at the same time still feel pretty like conversationally sharp. 750 milligrams L-Tyrosine on waking has me feeling good most of the time. However, after a couple of weeks, I do feel more anxious. Dusty, you bring up a great point. Maybe it's the fact I'm starting to feel anxious from using L-Tyrosine, because I've used it like almost every single day for years now, thinking it's okay because it's an amino acid, it's found in chicken breast, it's not necessarily a nootropic that people experience bad side effects from or any emergencies. So that's a good takeaway from this. Thanks for that. And guys, I appreciate you all being here. The 62 of you, be sure to give this a thumbs up. You guys mean a lot to me, and I'll do everything I can to really add value and help to change your lives in whatever way I can. I started feeling really depressed after a week and a half after taking Nalt. Do you think L-tryptophan can be helpful. Probably not. Most people who use L-tryptophan do not continue with it. They just try out of curiosity. NALT is N-acetyl L-tyrosine, guys. NALT is a little bit more potent than L-tyrosine. So tyrosine, the most commonly found products of L-tyrosine are the normal like L-tyrosine, and there's NALT, N-acetyl L-tyrosine. NALT is the one that's actually found out there in most energy boosting products, like 5 Hour Energy, I believe, has NALT. Rockstar. But I think it's horribly overrated. L-tyrosine is probably better. One thing I like about NALT versus L-tyrosine, though, is NALT seems to hit you a little bit quicker. So a common dose of NALT is 350 milligrams. And that's something I'm actually playing with now, like in my morning stack that I referred to earlier in this live stream. I talked about NALT and I'm using it. I've been using it for the past month. I actually kind of like it. But I only like it when I'm using it with L-tyrosine, because L-tyrosine works for a good 90 to 120 minutes, whereas NALT maybe like 30 to 45 minutes, but I like that it hits me really fast, especially when I combine it with caffeine. Thoughts on black seed oil? Horribly overrated in my opinion. There's a few people who like it. I'm not sure what they're using it for. Maybe there are people who don't respond well to alpha GPC, and that's why. Does ashwagandha give you brain fog? What would you recommend more for social anxiety, L-theanine, or ashwagandha, as anxiety can actually result in brain fog as well, to be honest? Well, brain fog is very vague. I don't really know exactly how you're describing it. What my definition of brain fog is like when you're feeling a caffeine crash, you just cannot think. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to execute in what you're doing. You feel awful. So that's my definition. As far as for social anxiety, none of them. Of the two, probably ashwagandha with L-theanine. Some people notice that their blood sugar really drops and they feel a little bit out of it. So it's a bit of a risk. It's a kind of like a risky one that way. Lion's mane is probably the best thing out there for social anxiety for me anyway. I'm trying to pass a state certification exam for stenography at 225 words per minute. Wow, I thought I was fast. 225 words per minute. Anything besides modafinil that you recommend? I need to boost my cognitive function and calm my nerves. Ashwagandha can actually be pretty good with that, surprisingly. And then alertness, caffeine and L-theanine. Make sure, of course, like you really get a good workout in. That will surely help. And let's talk more about this. This is a really good question. There are select nootropics that can really help you with gaming, but I don't want to assume that being a good gamer means you can type faster necessarily. Any ways to decrease tolerance to modafinil? Oh man, there's some people said, I don't know if they said grapefruit juice or just something very unusual. I don't remember. Something like that anyway. Decrease tolerance to modafinil. More just make your modafinil to sort of make you feel the benefits more so. What works really well for me is staying hydrated and not just drinking water, but consider consuming more water-rich foods, being lettuce, spinach. Can have some vitamin B, vitamin B12, get a vitamin B12 spray. That's what I really like. What's up? Don't forget to hit the like button. That is a great point. What can I take to elevate my mood, man? Bacopa, ashwagandha, rhodiola, rosea, caffeine. Those are really good. With caffeine, you'll feel the up, but then you'll feel the down. Although I think it's really, really nice. The way like 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine feels is really good stuff. I think if anyone who anyone who's tried different nootropics but hasn't tried caffeine yet, consider going back to taking caffeine and L-theanine. You may really see the benefits, or even mixing it with L-tyrosine, like caffeine along with 500 to 750 milligrams of L-tyrosine. That really does help my mood. Ever stopped ashwagandha for a lengthy period of time? Not sure what you mean by lengthy. I've stopped taking it for about 3 months, and it did pretty much it kind of did what I expected it to do, in that I still felt energetic, but I don't think I could handle stress as well. I wasn't enjoying my work as much. I mean, it wasn't a huge difference, but I think over a period of time, ashwagandha does more good than it does bad. Keeps you open-minded, keeps you creative. Sometimes we can be so tunnel vision with our work that we don't look at the big picture. And what I found that with ashwagandha, it helps me more so look at the big picture, helps me balance not only my work life, but as well my personal life. Thoughts on Huperzine A? We'll see. I've been using the form of Huperzine A from Nootropics Depot once in the morning and once right before bed for the past few weeks. So I'll be trying that for a few more weeks and see how I feel. Not only how I feel with business and work, but I've also got some neat trackers. I've got my ordering. I've got my Apple Watch, measuring my sleep quality, measuring my heart rate variability, trying to just be a bit more objective with some of these measures. So Huperzine A, a bit too early to tell, but what's cool about it, what Huperzine A and Magtine have in common is that they're nootropics people often take in the morning, and they're nootropics people actually take before they go to sleep, because they're supposed to enhance sleep quality, and at the same time they're supposed to help you be energetic. Huperzine A I first used over 10 years ago. I didn't like it. I used it when I was a student in university. I took it with vinpocetine thinking it would do something. It did absolutely nothing for me, but I'm a little bit more open-minded to it since people have said the form of Huperzine A from Nootropics Depot is decent. I bought the Bacopa. Then I saw you said it can be a demotivator, so it's been sitting in my cabinet for like 3 months now. Consider using it when you don't, when you're allowed to be demotivated, maybe on vacation, maybe on weekends, see how you like it, because it does help with memory for sure. Does lion's mane and reishi need to be taken with a meal? No. Most nootropics and lion's mane and reishi would be included. You might just notice them more so when you're fasted. We haven't gotten too many questions around the mushroom nootropics, reishi, lion's mane, cordyceps. If you guys have anything else, let me know. And I need to wrap this up soon. So sorry if I skip over your questions. You're always welcome to send me a message. I will get to, I get to all my YouTube comments, but it may take 1 or 2 days, maybe 3, depending on how on top of things I am. You can message me on Instagram. I'll likely message you back or even drop you a voice note. Hey, bro, have you noticed terrible rises of cortisol from modafinil? It made me so effing depressed. I didn't even articulate. Man, I shouldn't have put this comment over here. Hide. There we go. No, I think it's hard to notice when your cortisol is up and down. I'm not really sure what you felt to make you feel that way. Ashwagandha helps me with chronic pain. Are there any studies to prove that it works for pain? Not that I found whatsoever. Whereas phenylpiracetam is one, caffeine is one. I'll look into this. If you write me a comment somewhere, I can get back to you, because I'm also curious. Have you ever tried an SSRI before? Yeah, I've tried I think 2 or 3, of which all SSRI meaning an antidepressant, of which maybe I wasn't patient enough with them, because the scariest thing about SSRIs or antidepressants for me anyway is the weight gain. I grew up slightly overweight, so when I lost my weight, I didn't want to take anything that would help me to become overweight again. And SSRIs, that's the number one thing they have in common is the negative side effect of weight gain. And what's even worse is that most of them take at least 2 weeks to start working. So you have to take something, have blind faith that it works, and at the same time, you're feeling way more hungry, specifically for carbohydrates. Yeah, not a fan of most of them, but that's me. At the same time, a lot of people see good effects from antidepressants. So one which worked well for me, which isn't an SSRI, but specifically for mood, was Wellbutrin, also known as bupropion. And I've talked about that on my channel. There's videos related to it. Gorilla Mind Smooth. I've made a video talking about Gorilla Mind. What's great about it is the cost. I think maybe not so much as far as the effectiveness of it, but it's somewhat effective. It's a very low, it's a very well priced nootropic blend, so it's something worth considering taking. Why isn't piracetam more popular? I think the reason why is because most people, when they're taking Cade, a nootropic, they're wanting to feel something, and most people are a little bit impatient with it. They don't have an objective way around measuring the results. When I first started using piracetam, I was a student, so my way of looking at if things were working were my grades. And I noticed that when I was taking piracetam, my memory was considerably better, and my work ethic was a lot better as well. So because piracetam, you need to be somewhat smart to know how to use piracetam. You need to take it for a couple of weeks. You need to be using it with a form of choline in order for you to get the benefits. And again, you don't really notice if you drink a cup of coffee, you can feel something within half an hour. With piracetam, you don't notice it for at least a week or so for most people. Thoughts on Quayle? I'm going to skip that one. How can you avoid anxiety when using Yohimbine? Consider decreasing your intake of other stimulants. This is actually a great question. I've been starting to use, or I was using Yohimbine for a little bit just to cut weight for my trip to Mexico. And I felt that at a dose as low as 2.5 or maybe 5 milligrams of the HCl, I felt awfully anxious. I wanted to get it out of my system. So what I did was I decreased my caffeine intake. I actually decreased my L-theanine intake as well. And I felt a lot better. And I think Yohimbine was still doing what I wanted it to do as far as fat loss. We're starting to get repetitive questions, so it might be time to end this soon. Don't you think Qualimine overrated? The price is a huge drawback. Probably. I mean, I wouldn't say overrated. I would say overpriced when it comes to Qualimine. What is the best Bacopa supplement? This is a really good question. Of the two most popular ones, there's the Bacognize and there's the Synapsa, of which both of them, they feel the exact same. If any of you feel or any of you think otherwise, I would love to know more about that, because I've used Bacopa like way before Nootropics Depot, probably since 2013 or 14. And of all the forms that I've tried with Bacopa, almost similar to Rhodiola rosea, they all feel the same. And guys, we're going to end this here. Be sure to drop a comment on the live stream if you have any question that I didn't answer. And I apologize if I didn't get to you, but I appreciate all of you. And stay tuned to my next video. And I'll look forward to seeing you all next time.